Good evening, everyone. First of all, a warm welcome to our live audience here at Pakhuis de Zwijger. But of course, also a warm welcome to the people watching online, live, or now, or at a later moment in time at Glue TV on YouTube. And of course, a warm welcome to our designers here at the table. Can I have a warm round of applause for them? Nice. Welcome at Alternatives from the Unexpected, the second episode in an interview series by Glue Amsterdam, Connected by Design. Glue is a design route through Amsterdam that will take place from the 18th till the 21st of September, and is focused on bringing together the creative sector, focusing on connection and visibility. The route connects ateliers, studios, brands, but also academies, is designed for the professional creatives, but it's also a moment for them to connect to partners, clients, and of course the locals of Amsterdam. To enrich this program, Glue invited 5 external curators to come up with a list of hidden gems, unexpected designers that we might not know yet and that might not fit the common definition of design. They came up with a list of 30 sticky designers. Together, they stretch the boundaries of the world of design. And tonight, we have 4 of these sticky designers here at the table. Herma de Wit, Michele Boulogne, Maruxi, and Jerrold Saija. Can I have another round of applause for them? My name is Tiara, and I will be your host for tonight. So, alternatives from the unexpected. What does that actually mean? When I was preparing for this talk tonight, I thought a lot about what it meant to me, what it would mean to the audience, but mostly what it would mean to the designers here at the table. Because I knew that talking to them and reflecting on the world we live in today, we would be talking a lot about unexpected ideas, and that they would give us the chance to think about alternative scenarios for our current reality, alternative solutions, and maybe alternative future realities as well. So then that got me really curious, what got them in this position to be able to do that? So that's my first question for all of you, actually. How did your background, culturally, educationally, maybe other life experience, impact on how you look at the world today and your ability to challenge our current reality? Do you have an answer to that already?
Does anyone want to go first?
I think you started talking, so...
For me, I think it's mostly about my experiences as a kid, and even the TV shows that I watched as a kid, the books that I read as a kid, and I think that they were always very fantastical and very magical, and I feel like that has always been a very big starting point to my style, which eventually leads more to unexpected designs, but I think, it's super subjective to the person, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Jerrold? Do you recognize that playfulness that Muru describes?
Yeah, I would. When I think about my childhood, I think about my aunt who brought me to the museum in Sittard, the Domeine. And that brought me into art also, and thinking about art, but not yet then, but at a later phase in my life. And I think what was pivotal for me was joining the decolonial summer school. So thinking about coloniality, how that is still present in our current reality.
Yeah, I can imagine that did a lot to your journey as well. Yeah. Is there something in your background, your life experiences that impacted?
I think, and kind of joining what you guys just said, like from my childhood at least, what I was reading, the fact that I was already making bridges between different fields, like my whole education and just my whole life actually, I just like to connect things together, and maybe this is where the unexpected come from, because I just always connect stuff together, and then obviously it becomes something else. So maybe that's a start.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, thank you. I think it already helps us to get to know you a little better. And maybe also helps us to understand your work a bit better. So that being said, let's dive a bit deeper into the work of our first designer, which is Michele. Michele is a French Martinican textile designer and visual artist. Grounded in Caribbean heritage, her work addresses how cultural knowledge is constructed and transmitted through the discovery of new lands and the representation of remote geographies. Drawing on the histories of textiles and visual arts, she disrupts traditional representations through maps, remote sensing imagery, and historical text, to examine how these tools shape collective identity and sense of place. So from this short introduction alone, and also the works that I've seen from you, what really stood out to me is how you found such a relevant connection between your own cultural heritage and then space mapping. But I can imagine that that connection did not happen overnight, as you described. It started in your childhood already. So could you tell us a bit more about what that journey looked like and how your practice evolved to what it is now?
Yeah, it has been a wild ride, to be honest. Yeah, when I was a kid, I really did not expect doing the job that I'm doing. I think I cannot really put a label on it, and I'm really glad this is happening to me and I'm managing to have this practice together. But yeah, I was just a child coming to the world, and with my sister we would have this game where we would draw the floor plan of a boat. And in the Caribbean we have these huge boats, this is really big leisure boats, and we would draw the floor plans and imagine what is inside, and just always being okay, we have to play in the floor plan. And we also had that other thing of growing up in the island, you feel like, okay, everything else is from a further away, and you always have to kind of bring yourself from your mind to somewhere else and create this imaginary. So that's really just came from a passion for maps and exploration and reading heroic fantasy books, But obviously I was just a creative. So then I started to do design, and I am doing textile design actually. So that was really my first love in making, in creating texture, in coding, information, let's say. And I went back growing up in this design field to the theme of mapping that I had when I was young already. And then, obviously, the identity comes into place because you realize, oh, something is wrong in the world of, in that case, space exploration, or the way we explore the world now. I don't find myself in this narrative. You're being othered, let's say, and then you have to look back to yourself and understand that your identity or where you grew up has something to say or something to do about why maybe you need something is not. You don't recognize yourself in this narrative, let's say. So as I told you, I was doing these textile practices, and because I like to connect different themes together, I escaped France, and I was like, I'm going to come to the Netherlands to explore, okay, what do I really want from this design practice? And one project that is going in the slides actually is the circle. And it's called Venus Does Not Exist. And that was really one of my first projects where I was, no, it's a textile circle, but it's fine. And one of my first work where I was like, okay, what does it mean to create the portrait of a planet, of somewhere where we cannot go physically, and that is represented by technology and it's fully designed, basically. Because when you talk about space, you talk about something that is so small because there is a specific amount of actors, and also something where you can trace back the history quite easily because it started in the 50s. So it's like, okay, I'm taking the example of Venus as a planet, as a cultural entity that is very important in the cosmologies around the world, and I'm looking into it with the prism of technology and how they work together. So within that big project, I managed to connect textiles back and create this experiment where you look into the radar imagery and you change it to knitting. It's a wide project, but
this one, right? The
long answer is this one.
Yeah.
So this is just one region, and one region of Venus that is called Atla Regio. Can you leave it maybe, if possible? That would be amazing. This other image. But this is just one region, and the project itself is called Venus Does Not Exist. But why I talk about this project is that what stuck from me, what was interesting about this approach is the reaction of people. They were really like, oh, it's the first time I think about Venus, or what it feels like, or what I am in comparison to this planet that I've never really thought about. And then I realized, oh wow, there is so much strength and power in being able to craft what is the first image that people can have of a different place. So this practice, I have it about space matter, but also on Earth.
Yeah.
And there comes back the Caribbean heritage, and like because the Caribbean has been the next frontier in the past.
Yeah.
So to answer to your question, I did not forget it. I am part now of a collective that is called Venus Conversation, and I'm so proud to be part of it. And it's really a long-term approach throughout the years. It was initiated by Annick Bureau, Lily Ebert, and Claudia Schnung, and it is putting people from different fields. So you have engineers making specialized in the radar imagery of Venus, you have curators of science, you have normal people, you have artists, you have really, really from different kind of background and nationalities. And together we connect throughout more than 10 years in around this topic, basically. And I think this kind of approaches to me really makes sense, because you cannot just tackle this project by yourself. We're literally talking about something so big.
Yeah.
So to connect us back as a community is really powerful.
That's really beautiful.
That's one of the projects I have.
That's really nice.
And this one, actually, this is really what I'm going to mostly finish this year, and I'm mostly busy with. It's very close to my heart. So on this image, you can see an image of Dominica, an island that is the neighbor of Martinique. And I was taking the picture from the shore of Martinique. And it came from this idea that, okay, looking back at my home region, why, even though we speak all these languages, we have so much going on, we have all the capabilities today to be connected and to create a real community, why do I feel like there is a huge disconnection? And as a Caribbean person and growing up, you don't really go to the other islands. If you're lucky, you do, but it's really rare. Yeah. And it feels like the sea is just a wall. So now I'm really using my mapping practice and my capability to connect with people who really think about the history, but also connect, have projects for the Caribbean region, basically, to look at, okay, how can we create, again, a connection between just this example of these two islands, which are facing each other every day. Yeah. And to me, this has to come from the land. So this is a publication. It's also a series of prints, so very beautiful prints. And it's... I'm super excited about this project. I'm doing it with my mother. And we wanted to go about it as Caribbean people and maybe putting aside the academia of it and to really just look at it from the craft, from what happens if there is a hurricane, what kind of satellite imagery do we have access of, what kind of crops can you put in the ground if you want to survive, if everything is destroyed by the hurricane. So it comes from a very practical place, but also from a more overall idea of what we want for our region.
Very well said. And super special that you're doing this with your mother.
Of course, she's amazing.
So when I talked to you on the phone while we were preparing, you told me about, I asked you a question about how historical mapping influenced the narratives that are commonly known today. And you gave me two examples, one of the image of Columbus and this lunar observation that we see there, I think.
Yeah.
And I think what was really clear from these examples is how makers impacted our history. And we are also makers, so we have that power as well. So why do you think it is important to study these examples and to do this historical research?
Yeah, I think, so when I started to work into design and I was studying a part of my study in the US, and I felt, like people were using the word, we're colonizing space. And to me, I was like, wait, we're all tired with, people say they're tired with decolonial studies, but we're colonizing space like it's a pride. And to me, it was really shocking to feel like there's so many different yeah, we are completely different levels, and something that should not be okay still are. So that was really a starting point where I was like, okay, what would be my approach to look into these questions? And I love history, and I think because I come from a French education, I think I had to dismantle this idea of that I was brought into, which was coming from the French education. So in that sense, I had to look at these maps. It was interesting for me to really look at how my imaginary of my own region was crafted. And this image of Columbus that you see here, I realized, when I was thinking about Columbus arriving in Hispaniola in the 15th century, that was the image that I had in my head. But the De Bry's family was basically Theodore de Bry and his 3 sons. He was living in Liège, and he has never been to the Americas. But he was basically a printmaker. And what is really, really striking is that this person crafted an imaginary, even to people coming from the Caribbean, until today, centuries after. So it's super sad, but also really interesting to look at, okay, this was just a printmaker. So that means we also, as creative today, have this power. And to me, to really study these examples, and on the left you can see one of the extracts from the Americas series, and he had these things where they were putting this very beautiful copper engraving as well. So it was a very precious object that carried through the year. Yeah. But to me, it's really interesting to look at the techniques, like literal, physical techniques that were used for a piece of culture to stay in time, even though someone portrayed that but never went.
Yeah, exactly. That is huge. So what do you think the role of us creatives is in facing the challenges we have today?
Easy questions tonight. Easy questions.
Knowing that this can be the impact.
Yeah, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed, but I have to say there is this, maybe that's why I'm seeking for these historical examples, because you never know what is going to have such an impact, let's say, as a creative. But I do feel like, there's this famous quote, the role of the artist is to make revolution irresistible. I cannot say this thing. By Tony Kedaba. And I agree, like you have different kind of steps to go towards revolution. And I would say the first one is obviously awareness. Then you have analysis, and you need to go from the analysis to the praxis. So you try your analysis, you make examples, you make experiments. And then from that, you can go through, really touch the imaginary of the people, and that draws to collective action. So I really see this as different steps, and creative are almost at most of these parts of this process, basically.
I'm curious if the others think so as well.
Yeah, but I guess we all have our own tools, and to be able to connect people together is also really important.
Thank you so much for sharing this and some insight in your practice and in your background as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
But as I said, I'm really curious if other designers here recognize the role that you described as well. So let's ask our second designer, which is Maruxi.
Hello.
Maruxi, or Maru as we like to call her.
Yeah, I have a lot of names. Maria is my real name. Maru is what my friends call me, and Maruxi is my designer/artist name. But yeah, I agree with what you said, Michele. I feel like being an artist, in a way, it's kind of like the superpower, and it comes with like a lot of privilege, and that's something that I feel every day. What was the question again?
If you recognize yourself in the roles or the steps that Michele described for creatives, or do you think we have a different role?
I think that all creatives kind of fall into a similar role. Like everyone wants to spark a change, everyone wants to have a conversation, but it really depends what sort of conversation you're trying to have. I feel like yours is a lot more deep with research and a lot more embedded in your culture and where you're from. With me, it's kind of more material based. I look at the history in objects themselves. I work a lot with scraps, and I like to listen to the material. But I love having conversations with people whose process is completely different in that. That's obviously you. I think it's also nice, like how we're all very different from each other. I think that's great. But yeah, so my role more as a creative is just to be big and loud and maybe make some people feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I feel like that's the first step to making a conversation.
That's already insightful.
Thank
and
you.
I think it's nice that you're using the feedback actually to also help you shape your path. But let me give the audience a bit more of a background on you as well. So Maru is an artist and designer, originally from Argentina, but she has lived the majority of her life in Switzerland. She has spent the past 4 years in Eindhoven, graduating from Design Academy Eindhoven, which has shaped her as a maker and allowed her to dance between the boundary of art and design. She has always considered herself an artist inside a design school. Combining these two worlds with working intuitively and on large scale all comes together in what she calls her sculptural furniture. Can you tell us a bit more about what sculptural furniture is?
Yeah, I think that's the one word that really ties design and art, and that's kind of what I like to play with so far. I think right now, these days, I consider myself more an artist, if anything, after being in design school for 4 years. But yeah, I really crave an interaction ever since I started with this whole world of design. I always wanted my objects and the things that I make to really invite people in and kind of like take away this passive observer that usually tends to happen in exhibitions. So as you see, like my latest piece that I made was my graduation work, and it was this big adult sexy playground, and which is really fun. I made a huge fidget spinner that you can ride on. Draaimolen. I learned that word recently. And then I made a big vulva couch, and that has attracted and unattracted a lot of people. It was just funny, the conversations that I had with it, because also it's I wanted people to sit on it. I wanted my friends to sit on it. I had this crazy photo shoot with them, and yeah, it's meant to be ridden on, and it's also meant to kind of make playgrounds more attractive to us, because I'm a very playful person. I played a lot as a kid, and I think everyone did as well, obviously. And but I do feel like these playgrounds kind of remain these like plastic structures frozen in time, and I wanted to make them as if they also grew up and gained maturity and gained personality and gained sexiness, and also relating to how we as adults play today. And for me, that's also like with sex and dancing and just personifying that all in an object. So that kind of goes into this whole sculptural furniture, just furniture with a lot of personality, and maybe you just don't really know quite what it is, but that's also what attracts people.
So now I understand better, because when we were preparing, Maru asked me, do you know if there are rules against showing explicit images? And I was like, oh, what do you want to show? But now I understand, and also what the story behind it is.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I just didn't want to overstep any boundaries.
Very considerate.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about the process behind one of your projects and how you work with the material?
Yeah, of course. That's my favorite thing to talk about.
Go for it.
I like to go to the scrapyard. For the couch, I went to this car junkyard, and I had to cut the springs from an old truck myself, which was very sketchy because I didn't want it to like fly on my face. And so I usually work with a scrap from an old like mechanical part, and I want to bring that movement back to life. And those movements were brought back to life in a very playful way. So I found an old train bearing, which was like that big. And I was like, okay, what can I make from this? I want to make something that spins, but not on like that axis, but that axis. And then I thought of a fidget spinner, which I loved to play with, but making it huge. So yeah, it's just really going to the scrapyard, finding scraps, usually with an integrated movement. And then that's where the fun begins. And then that's just kind of where, I just make a lot of things, and just goes a bit crazy, and I love it. I love entering this space for sure.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
You also said that you want your installations to function as a conversation starter. So I was wondering, what kind of interaction makes you happiest to see? And what is the conversation that you want people to have then?
I want them to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Just a little bit. When I exhibited this work, it was super nice just to have these conversations with people who I usually probably wouldn't have a conversation with, and them sitting on this couch and me sitting in front of them, and then obviously asking where the inspiration comes from, and then I'm just trying to normalize sex as like form of play, and so obviously it is a taboo subject, and also just showing it through kind of this like rougher material like metal. But yeah, there's been a lot of cases of, and I love this, but me sitting on my couch, people walking by and then whispering to each other like, "Oh, is that a vulva?" I go, "What? Come sit down on it." And I love that. I love that because it can be a little bit of a shock, but I think that's what works. And if you don't want to interact with it, sure. But I feel like a lot of people kind of push that, and they put that aside, and you can see that they might be a little bit uncomfortable sitting on it. But then once they do, they're just rocking on it. And they're like, "Oh, this reminds me of when I was younger and I did the Vip-Vap." Yeah, the Vip-Vap. The
Vip-Vap, yes.
Seesaw. I was like, yeah, that's the whole point. It's all grown up. Yeah, and just seeing people's faces, especially when they go on the spinny thingy, is great. Yeah, it makes me very happy. I just want to make playful things because, I mean, everyone just smiles a lot when they're on it, and they're like, "Oh, how fast can it go?" And I'm like, just try to go fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Maru,
thank you
for inviting us to be part of your work, but also part of your world.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then we're going to our next artist, designer, who also makes us part of her work, her world. And in that world, nature plays a very important role. Herma. Herma's works include bronze sculptures, objects, drawings, etchings, and monotypes, reflecting her profound connection with nature. Herma started her artistic career as a fashion designer, and now works from her studios in Amsterdam and the Betuwe. A perfect place to explore the balance between fragility and strength, both present in the natural world. Herma challenges this contrast and the artistic boundaries of her materials, for example by balancing thin Japanese paper with the fragments of fossil flora imprinted onto the paper with a considerable compressive force. Herma, I love that in all the work that I saw from you, your connection with nature is so visible, so clear. So I was wondering, where did that connection to nature begin for you? Where did it start, and how did it grow into your source of inspiration?
Well, I think it starts when I was very young. Dus from my childhood, I felt safe with the nature. And I observed the flowers in the garden of my parents' home. By traveling a lot to other countries and nature I saw there, it always gave me inspiration, and I took a memory home.
From the countries that you visited?
Yes.
Nice.
And that's the basic where I work now for years.
Yeah. What kind of memory? Like a piece or a
It's
picture?
just the country, the feeling, the people, the difference, the different than Holland.
Yeah.
It's to be curious.
Yeah.
It's
That's so beautiful. I saw one of your works, The Origin, which is a life-sized seed pod, right? Which you can literally stand in and made out of bronze. I think we saw a picture just now. And this is the sketch for it? How did you come up with the idea to create this?
Well, the idea came about during Corona time in 2020, and after my trip to Japan. I think that was a very important trip of a few weeks, and this different culture and nature sparked my wonder for something bigger. After all these years that I make small sculptures a bit bigger, and then I found a seed pod on one of my journey to Croatia. It was like this, and then I tried to make it like this size. Then I make it like this size, and then the bigger size came.
So it really grew.
Yeah, it grew, yeah. And, well, the idea of the origin arose to make people more aware of their connection with nature, and that you can be also yourself inside.
Inside
it's
the
a
pot.
kind of spirituality.
Yeah. What does that process look like to create such a large bronze sculpture?
Heavy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, because you start with an idea, but then you realize that the scale is also important. It's not possible to make this like, I blow it up and it became like this. It is a long. It was a long. It took time and to search for the right size, and then how to make the frame, and then that's the sketch, the frame. Like it has to be how can I make it? And then I found some. How do you say that? A company who worked out with me together by a special program on the computer, and then they make the frame, and then I had to build it up with cloth, and it was a very heavy, long work. But I got some help, but the final touch I had to make it with my own hands, and that there became something of myself inside.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's also a part of you, literally inside the work.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is that you actually used the leftover materials for another project, right? Earthcrest?
Yeah, well, if you go back, you see me another one. I think one more that I stay outside. When it was, these are the skills. How do you say the schillen, the husk, of the frame, and I thought the caster asked me, "What do I do with this kind of thing? Shall I throw it away?" I said, "No."
So they asked you what you wanted to do with it.
Like. I said, no, I take them home to my studio, and then I see what I can do with it. And then the idea of fossils. Fossils are a lasting eternity. And in this certain political time, I hope to preserve something in terms of environmental issues. I also find it a challenge to create something new with residual material.
Yeah, that is.
Because I thought, and then, I worked a year on this, and there's already one big part casted, and the other three are waiting for preparing and to finish it.
So you added the fossils to the husks, the rest material.
Yes, because for years I collect flowers, I dry them carefully, and then I use them to stick it in, and then I take it out, and then it goes to the caster.
Ah, like that. Beautiful. So in your work with nature, you address a lot of topics like legacy, preserving, but also fragility and balance, all topics that are really relevant in facing the challenges that we have today, I think. So what do you think we can learn from nature?
Well, nature goes down and restores itself through the seasons. We can learn from this. People should be close to themselves and nature. Nature is the basic of life, like breathing. Well, we need connection with Mother Earth. I think for me that's very important, and I want to. Nou, not. Ik wil dit uitdragen.
You want to share it with us? Or?
Yes, I want to share it with as an artist. I hope that it is possible.
Yeah, I think so. Well, you did it for me at least.
Thank you.
And I think the other designers here as well. So thank you so much. I've learned a lot from your connection to nature and how you put it in your work and also your everyday life. I do think we can learn a lot from that.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to our last designer, Jerrold Saija. Jerrold engages with the ways memories take shape and fade. What first seemed lost and intangible resides in our bodies, archives, intimate connections, oral traditions, and cosmological stories. Through his practice, he draws from these networks, allowing memories to be re-experienced, preserved, and passed on. Using photography, sculpture, video, and spatial installations, he weaves a fabric that intertwines his personal experiences and family history along with lingering colonial traces. In doing so, he connects the present, past, and future images into a nervous system of recollections branching into time and space. That's a really beautiful introduction. You've listened now to these three designers. And I saw you taking some notes.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, what stood out? Is there something that stood out to you that they said that resonates with you, or maybe something you don't agree with at all?
No, I actually agree with every one of you. Like, I felt very inspired listening to each one of you, and I wrote down some things that were also overlapping and was meaningful for me, which was the awareness and the collaboration, but also working with family. And also the connection to nature, because also in Moluccan tradition, the body is an extension of the landscape. So I thought that was also very beautiful. Many things. I would love to, talk more after. Also keep in contact.
Yes. Yeah, it was really interesting to me that although your work is very different, there's a lot of similar foundations and values that you share. It was nice to see. In your work, you address very abstract topics like memories, tradition, but you still make them visible, and even more than visible, you give others the chance to experience those abstract topics. So what did the process of growing into that ability and finding your voice, what did that look like?
I think, like I said in the beginning, my aunt took me to the museum a lot. That was my introduction also. And I didn't know art was a possibility back then. And later I went to the academy, and then I learned through looking at others what I value, and being inspired and
Yeah, and did you start with the installations you make now, or what did your early work look like?
Actually, I started off with graphic design, and then I chose to do fine art because I thought it was more challenging also, and to challenge my perspective and to,
nice. So in your work, language and wordplay come back multiple times. I saw Wijsneus, which I really liked, Huilenbalk and Clue. Can you tell us more about one of these projects? I think this is Wijsneus, right?
Yeah, this is Wijsneus.
Could you explain us more about it?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, Wijsneus. So it started with this clowning workshop I got during my master's, which was very inspiring, which was also including play, which was really fun. But at the end of the workshop, we got our own clown's noses, and that made me, think like, oh, that felt really special to me. So I was thinking about Wijsneus, so it's like wise nose, which means know-it-all. But I would like to I would like to see that in an uplifting way. So I wanted to. I started experimenting with my aunts. I have 5 aunts who really supported me throughout my life, and yeah, I wanted to give them their flowers. So the wise nose giving back. The wise nose is also giving back their flowers, in a way. And as you can see, we started, or I developed like a kind of interview way where I asked them questions and they drew their answers, and we were really surprised of the outcome, and they opened up in many beautiful ways, which I never expected. And then there was also a way to generate art together. So that was beautiful. And then afterwards, I got asked by the Need for Legacy and ITA to create a portrait for Delta Dua, which is a Moluccan theater group, as you can see. And they have been working in the field for 45 years. And I believe they also deserve their flowers and their own wise nose. So I made their wise nose, and
they also got the nose.
Yeah, they got the nose, and we had a photo shoot the whole day. We drew together, and I got to know their practice in that way. So yeah, I made this Polaroid, and then we made it bigger into a lenticular print, so like a 3D print. Yeah.
And did it work for you? Does wijsneus now have a different connotation, a more positive feeling?
Yeah, I feel like I would love to give more people wijsneuzen.
I would like a wijsneus. Yeah. I've been called it a lot.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's a way of connecting to other generations and speaking.
True, yeah. Another word that I really liked you playing with was huilenbalk or steunbalk.
Oh yeah.
Which is also one of your projects. Can we maybe see that one?
Yeah, I also thought when I was hearing Maruxi, I was like, oh, maybe this is a sculptural furniture.
It could be.
Yeah.
Can we show it?
What does it mean?
It's a supporting beam. It's literally a supporting beam. But it's also a tissue box. But it's also... but it looks like it's metal, but it's not. It's wood, and it's clove powder. So I like to play with words.
How did you come up with that?
Yeah, I've always seen like these tissue boxes in Asia where they make a separate like a casing for a tissue box, and I was thinking about that. And also I was playing with a lot of the poetics of the clove, which are native to the Moluccan Islands. So also the clue, as you can see, it's like the name, it got itself from the form, so the nail, and I wanted to make clove nails.
Just kruidnagel in Dutch, right?
Kruidnagel. Yeah. And this I made with my friend Tom van Schaik, which is also a jewelry designer. And yeah, I used this to mount my work also on the walls.
You actually used it as nails.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. Thank you. So, when we called, you told me this quote. "The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house." A quote by Audre Lorde, and it gave me chills when you said it on the phone.
Yeah, it also gave me chills.
How do you interpret this quote in relation to our current reality, or what it means to you?
I got this quote from a friend, Demis, while I was working on this sculpture, the steunbalk, and it got me thinking about more tools that are supportive for communities and people. Basically.
It still lives in the back of my mind all day. Thank you so much, Jerrold. And thank you all of these designers here. I think you gave us a lot of insight into your practice and your ambitions, the inspiration, which takes a lot of effort and courage to do, but it's very valuable to us all and inspiring too. So we've talked about the work that you're already finished or that you're doing now, but I'm still very curious. if you have a dream, secret dream project, maybe something you've been thinking about for a long time, or a vague idea, but you haven't put it into words yet. If you have a project like that, and this question was actually inspired by Herma, because you told me about the immigrant door that you were thinking about. Maybe you can share something about that idea?
Well, that idea came years ago. I'm always interested in the Iran, like voormalig Perzië, the geometric, and suddenly I saw a beautiful in a magazine, a beautiful door, and I thought, my God, this is so beautiful with the forms and mathematic. Like I thought, if I make such a door, but then open, and then I thought I would like to place it in an weiland, in an
open field.
Open field with the door open. But this is years ago, and just to open the doors for people coming.
Yeah, to
abroad.
welcome them.
Yeah, to welcome them.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a dream to realize this. Still.
Well, I would love to see that dream realized. It's
yeah, you have to wait.
I will wait. I'll be patient.
It's.
Do any of you have a secret or a dream project? Yeah.
Yeah.
Please share.
I want to make a roller coaster theme park. 100%.
Not surprised, but that's
Yeah,
fun.
I would love that. I want to move to Berlin and make a big. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I would love that. Or like a big carousel or something. Yeah, I think that's calling me. So.
I could totally see that happening.
Me too.
Jerrold, you were going to share something.
Yeah, I would love to. I felt very inspired also by Herma, like playing with scales. Like that's really interesting. And I'm also thinking about, doing something abroad. That would be really interesting, especially in Japan, because my grandma used to sing this Japanese song, and I know there are other Moluccan first generations who know Japanese songs. So, that's maybe interesting to work with in the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I hear lots of big projects, international projects. I'm excited. Michele, do you have anything in mind?
This question is so hard, but I don't know if it's a dream project, but if I have to think about myself, like in 30 years or more, like what I really want to be, like I want to be in the studio with all these really cool, crazy old textile machines, and to learn more about textile as something that has been here for history of trades, and like having like a really beautiful textile library where I invite people and that is also living, and that we can look back at this beautiful history. But I also feel like it's gonna sound so bad, but the work that I'm doing now, it's I would have never imagined it as a kid. So I'm like, well, I also feel like I'm living my dream. I'm trying to thrive from my dream, but it's really I don't know. I'm just appreciating every day.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Without yet a big dream project, but I do have this big dream vision of my old self in a textile studio.
But then with that last question, I would like to end the official end of this interview. I would like to thank Creative Industries Fund NL, Amsterdam Fonds for their support, and of course Pakhuis de Zwijger and Salto Televisie for their collaboration. We will continue our talk a little bit with the audience, give them a chance to also ask questions. But for now, I would like one last round of applause for our designers. Thank you so much.